In the last week, we saw how Arjuna asked this question, repeated doubt that should I work or renounce the fight? And so for that, Krishna answered like how working in the world is a better option and what is the reason. And after that, he will, in this section that we will see today, he will explain it's not just enough to work in the world, it's not just enough to engage one's nature or engage according to one's nature, but it's also important to know how the world works. So we can engage according to our nature, but in a way that does not create bondage. And then he will continue to speak about the idea of developing the right vision. So we'll see those two sections today. So we also saw why Arjuna was still confused, even though Krishna has multiple times answered. And the reason was he is confusing between work and renunciation. And the third category that Krishna is trying to explain to him, that is called as renounced work. It's not black and white, but there is some gray area in between. And it's not fitting into his conceptual landscape. So he is having a trouble in understanding. That's also prejudice is also another reason. He does not want to fight, and that's another reason that he is having the trouble. So we did see how it's not about renunciation or engagement with matter. They both are same as long as we have detachment. If we have detachment, either we are renounced or we are engaged with matter, it will lead to liberation. But if we don't have detachment, either renunciation or engagement with matter leads to bondage. So that's what Krishna explained. And we saw the importance of managing our desires and how to purify our desires through regulating them, reforming them, dovetailing them, and also practicing a spiritual sadhana, like chanting the Hare Krishna or hearing Srimad Bhagavatam like that regularly. And we ended at this note that how renunciation is not giving up the world, but giving up the illusion of control and enjoyment. And today we will see the section from verses 13 to 16. Before that, I just wanted to understand, or sorry, like kind of delve into this thought that all these three chapters, 3, 4, and 5, they are speaking about karma yoga. And we can think, oh, what's going on? Why is Krishna repeating again and again? Because they're all karma yoga, but Krishna is not actually repeating. Every time he is adding on to the knowledge that he provided in the previous chapter. So if we objectively go through the three chapters and list them, what is being discussed in those chapters, we will see how he is like progressing in the depth of knowledge that he is giving about this topic in each of these. So essentially, in the third chapter, he emphasizes that how inactivity is not possible. You can just not do anything because the modes will force us. We all have that experience. We have to do something. At least our mind is active, even if our body is not active. So inactivity is not an option. And personal nature and desires, they're so inherent, so they cannot just be ignored or denied. And he even makes this point how even basic life maintenance requires action. We must work to support our physical existence. So Krishna advises, stay in the world and fulfill your own unique duty and purpose. Everybody is different and everybody is unique. We all have a certain purpose and we all have certain skills and nature that we can engage in the world for our own benefit and others' benefit. So Krishna is saying, stay in the world and utilize what abilities and duties that you have. And in this chapter 4, he is speaking about karma yoga, but he is speaking, okay, you can stay in the world and work, but also know who am I, who is God, who is Krishna. By that knowledge, you can actually be detached or kind of you can be freed from the bondage even though you're working. So he's giving that knowledge about himself and speaks about karma and vikarma, and how to acquire that spiritual knowledge. You have to go to a spiritual master, and then by that knowledge that we gain from a spiritual knowledge, if we work in the world along with that knowledge, then there will be no bondage. So you see, he is speaking about karma yoga, but he has introduced the new concept of his own transcendence, and the difference between karma, vikarma, and akarma. This is the new thing that he has introduced in chapter 4. In chapter 5, he adds up, he builds on it. He says, yeah, fulfill your duties, but equipped with knowledge. What kind of knowledge? See, the knowledge of the three doers, the knowledge of three controllers, and then also, what happens when you have that spiritual knowledge? So that is also being discussed in this particular chapter. Any questions, any thoughts, any reflections? Just want to hear other voices in the room. I know it's getting technical, so we'll make it more like application oriented in the following verses. But anything that comes to your mind, anything that you want to just reflect what you heard or what you're seeing in the screen, something that you liked. Okay. Everybody is speechless, out of words. Okay. So at least is this understandable? Like, am I making sense? Is it like,
Yes, Prabhu, I really appreciate this. This is very clear. I'm like just reading it and trying to get through it in my head and taking a picture of it and all those things. So it's very good. Thank you so much.
okay. So last week we had like a discussion post class about the three doers. So I thought like using an analogy can make that concept easier. So Chakresh is not here. Gayatri Mataji is also not here, but she had asked a question like, how is the soul a doer if he is like usually considered as a non-doer? The analogy of this car could be helpful where the car is like the material nature, the world that we operate in. It gives us so many facilities. There is sun, there is moon, there is earth, there is water, there is air that we breathe. So it gives us so much facilities. And then the three modes also, like according to morning, evening, night, like that, it kind of facilitates our actions. And the super soul is like the government, like which has laid the roads, which has put on signs for everywhere, like created exits and all kinds of facilities for us to travel on the road. But it is the responsibility of the driver to choose the destination. The car does not choose the destination. Even if it is a Tesla auto drive car, you choose the destination. It's not that you sit and then ask the car, where would you like to go, and then the car takes us. No, even if it's an auto driving car, you have to choose the destination. So car is just facilitating our desire to go to a particular place, and then the super soul is also kind of sanctioning that by having the facilities that we need in order to be able to make that journey. So both these factors, like both the three modes and the super soul, they cannot become responsible for taking for our decision to go to a particular place, whether that place is good for us, bad for us, whether it is dangerous, whether it is pleasurable. That is up to us because we chose the destination. So similarly, Krishna is explaining these three doers that the soul desires, it wants to do something. So then the super soul sees, is this desire by the soul, is it possible for it to achieve it? Because it has a desire, like it takes account of our desire and sees, do we have any spiritual aspiration? At the same time, is it helpful for to fulfill this desire or not? If the spiritual aspiration is not there for a normal person, then it is just karma. It sees, okay, does this person have the credits to be able to enjoy this desire? Like it's like we have a debit card sometimes. So a debit card, the difference is you can go and swipe, but only whatever is there in your bank account you can actually withdraw. If there is no money in the bank account, you cannot withdraw using a debit card. So karma account is a debit account, it's not a credit account. So you go and swipe. If you have the enough credits, then you get to buy or you get to enjoy. So similarly, the super soul sanctions, taking into account our past karma, our spiritual aspiration, and what kind of material desires we have. Like maybe I want to fly in the sky without any facility, but it's just not possible according to the design of the world. So that desire will never be fulfilled, however much I try. Okay, then a scientist may actually think of creating facilities like a flight. Then yeah, according to the material rules, as long as they follow the rules, that particular flight can actually facilitate the desire to fly in the sky. The moment the flight actually goes against the rules of the nature, then we see what happens. Immediately there is accident and it does not function. So similarly, here the soul desires and the super soul sanctions, taking into account, is this desire actually a valid one, is a feasible one for the soul to achieve, and what is its karma account, is does it have the enough karma credit, and if the soul also has a spiritual aspiration, then the super soul takes into account all the three and decides whether we can achieve that desire or not. And once that sanction is there, then the material nature facilitates. So the center part, the super soul sanctioning, is not very visible to us. So we think I'm just acting. Oh, I wanted to go to Whole Foods. So yeah, yeah, I can just walk down, and when it happens, we think I'm the one. But what happens when the elevator breaks down? What happens? This door is locked. What happens when there is a heavy rain outside, or there is a shooting going on outside, or the Whole Foods is closed, or for some reason, or suddenly I have a sprain in my leg. So there are so many things that can go wrong, and I may not be able to fulfill that desire. So it's a magic when something actually gets accomplished in this world, because so many things could go wrong and still we made it possible. So that means everything is aligning. So that does not mean, so the question of that many people may get in their heart is, oh, that means how am I just responsible? Like somebody may be taking up a gun and shooting people around. So the super soul sanctioned that action and material nature facilitate that the action. So how is that only the soul is responsible? So that is why I first discussed the car example. So just because the gun is manufactured, just because of course the government regulations are all like very political thing. I'm just saying, just because you find a gun and it is loaded, and does not mean you are like kind of sanctioned to shoot at others. So you cannot say, I did not make the gun, somebody else manufactured the gun, the government gave me the license. So now I can pick up and shoot when I'm mad at others, and I'm not responsible. No, you were facilitated, but you are responsible for the choices you made. So the soul initiates actions, but it initiates action based on its desires. And the super soul just sanctions based on other factors like karma and other feasibility reasons, and the material nature facilitates such sanctioned actions. So that is why it is very important to understand this spectrum of free will and destiny. So free will, yes, we are free to desire many things, and many of those things can happen, some of those things may not happen, because on the other extreme there is also destiny. So a combination, mean, arithmetic mean, we said, a combination of all these things decides what is possible and what is not. Say, for example, this morning I was thinking, let me just cancel the class. I don't think I can make it because I was traveling and I thought it's too much for me to take the class. And I even typed the WhatsApp message, and then I was about to send, but something, I thought, okay, it's just an hour, just you can just make it. So now the class is now happening. So it just I had to like convince my mind, okay, it's not that difficult. You just have to make few slides which were remaining, and I don't even know if I'll get to that section. So I thought, don't overthink, just take the class, no need to break. But I had actually almost typed the whole message and I was about to press my send. So then what would have happened? The class would not have happened. So there is so much control that we have in this world when we change and control the mind. Because I was just like kind of overwhelmed, and I had a late night and all of those things. So I was just like a little bit overwhelmed. Maybe just I don't do it will be at least make me peaceful for my journey to prepare. But I just thought, oh, okay, it's not a big deal. Just keep up with the schedule. So and now we are now discussing, and I'm seeing like how much control we have on our own life, the quality of our life, and what we want to do and not to do. So there is so much that we can change. It's within our control to change the quality of our life and what we can accomplish. And all it takes is sometimes like a cool head and a controlled mind and a regulated life. Due to the lack of that, we end up doing or not doing a lot of things which does not actually improve the quality of our life. So that's all I wanted to share. And here, Constantine, Greg Prabhu, or Indra Devi, yeah.
I was thinking when the last thing you said where about canceling class, and I was like, wow, good thing you got some credit in your karma account. So, and I was thinking, how does one develop that credit? And it's like I was, tell me if I'm right. It's like basically selfless service and devotional service, um, not done for my benefit, not in trying to build up the account. It's like I just look at you doing this class. This takes a lot of work. This took a lot of effort to put something like this together. And then then you have someone like me that's like, oh man, this is too much, or but you went through all this trouble. And it's like I have so much respect for that. And it just reminds me that selfless service is so key. Um, to not get caught up into building like a physical bank account, focus more on the other. And then the physical bank account will come on its own, and I'll know how to spend the physical bank account in a way that works in this scheme.
Thank you for the sharing, Prabhu. So if I can reflect on what you just shared, like you also asked a question, like how do we even create that karma account? Usually some of it is already there, and the material nature in general facilitates a lot of action for our own welfare, for spiritual welfare. There's a lot of choices that we have, especially how do I utilize my time. So we all have that choice. The more the mind is controlled, we'll be able to make the right choices. It does not just depend upon karma, because karma does not freeze us that you cannot make spiritual advancement or you cannot change the quality of your life, because there is an quality of life. There are external factors, there are internal factors. Maybe I may not have the kind of living facility that I would like to have. I may not have like a sea facing 6 story like a mansion, but the inner quality of my life is very much within my own control. Can I be satisfied with what I have? Can I utilize it in a proper way that is spiritually helpful for me? Those kind of inner work choices are not limited by karma. It is available for everybody. The inner work is not limited by karma. Sometimes, say for example, if I was born deaf, yes, it does affect my ability to create spiritual advancement. But if I was eager, it's not impossible. It is not impossible if somebody is eager. And we see such examples as Gajendra in Bhagavatam, or like a small kid like Dhruva. If there is determination, because of the past karma, yes, we might be sometimes limited, but most of the times it's not the case. Like we all have all the basic senses that we need to make spiritual advancement intact, but still the mind is not so very easy to control. So the more the mind is controlled and the more the right choices are made, we can always make our inner life much more better. The external factors like having money and all those things depends on the skills that we are born and the certain amount of karma that we came along with, and the other situations, the world situations, and all of those things. So that is, you can try your best with the right attitude, and also even having proper mental control helps actually in even in general worldly affairs. People become more productive, and that may lead to more money and more prosperity. Yes, bro, you have something more to add to?
No, sorry, it's me. I was wondering if when you say spiritual aspirations, so if one has a desire and it's based on maybe the karma like they came along with, um, does the super soul, he could sanction it not based on your spiritual aspirations, right? I mean, the spiritual aspirations means, is he thinking, oh, is this gonna do well for this person spiritually? I'll grant them the desire. Or is it you're thinking, this will help my spiritual life. I want this desire.
Thank you. That's like a whole Canto 8 of Bhagavatam kind of discusses those things. But sure, like it's a combination. Say for example, I'm craving ice cream. I really want to eat ice cream, but it's going to make my health go bad, and I'll not be able to chant, or I'll not be able to do my proper sadhana. So now the super soul may not like think, oh, this guy, if he eats ice cream, he will not. So I will not give him ice cream. No, it may not be possible. Maybe ice cream is just sitting in my fridge. All I have to do is just go and grab. So that is up to me. But say, for example, certain things, like say, maybe I want to do a certain project, and so that I can be so and so. Maybe that may never come together. Like Srila Prabhupada said, he again and again started and failed his businesses, something like he endeavored 16 to 20 times to set up a business, and he never gave up, and it never happened. It was like, and that's why Prabhupada said, Krishna just made sure that I will turn my attention towards sannyas and like go down this thing, because that was so there's certain things like which Krishna knows, like a big thing, like, okay, you're not, I want you to go in this way, something like that. So the intervention happens depending on one's spiritual advancement and one's own like journey and all of that. It's not that he's going to he does not, it is not that he does not involve in everyone's life, and it's not that he completely orchestrates our life. It's somewhere between, I would say. Some of those desires, he will just, if I choose, like, I don't want to chant today, I'm just going to sleep and waste my time and watching YouTube and Instagram, he, he's not going to interfere. Is not going to interfere. I'll probably able to, but of course, certain things like may stop me from doing it. But pretty much I'll be able to do that if I want to. So you cannot expect Krishna to be. We cannot outsource our intelligence and free will to Krishna, on even on a spiritual life. We do have a lot of that, but some of it may not be facilitated, because it might be in, despite having the what do you call, qualification, sometimes we may not achieve all that we want to. There may be many reasons, and it could be the super soul is not sanctioning because it may not be good for us, or maybe currently not. Eventually, by having more maturity, we'll be able to handle, even if it comes externally. It's very difficult to dissect, but this is like a kind of a principle with which we can have some clarity what is going on. Make sense? Okay. Anybody else? Any questions or reflections, thoughts?
Prabhu, I'm sorry, but can you please clarify? Oh, sorry.
No, no, go
Yeah,
on, go
can
on.
you please like clarify a bit more around why bad things happen to good people and how those actions can be may take place or can be are sanctioned. Can you please elaborate more?
Hmm. Say, like, I have a unanswered comment on my YouTube channel. Like, somebody has asked about some kind of a thing happened in India to a doctor. So they had asked a very similar question. So that person was such a nice person. Why did she get murdered and like tortured and all that? So it's a very common question, like, why do bad things happen to good people? And I would say the emphasis is not whether that person was good or bad. It is the behavior of the people who meted out that, who caused that torture. They are responsible for that. It is their choice. It's not like why did God make it happen, because he is not interfering on that level where uh, we are like, we don't have a free will. If those individuals are misusing their free will and that affects other people, uh, that's how the world like, that is how we all get to actually act in the world. That is why we are responsible for the actions that we take, because that really affects other people. And that is this whole karma cycle. And it's not that, because if God controls everything, then we will become robots. He cannot force us to have only good desires. Free will means you are free to desire, and that includes you are free to desire in good or bad ways. But when I would say, why do bad things happen to good people, is for most of the times it is because people have bad desires, not the person who is suffering, the person who is perpetrating. So that is not God's responsibility, that is the individual's responsibility. And in that combination, yes, sometimes people may experience such go through inhuman experiences, which is very difficult to rationalize. So in this circumstances, I would consider it very insensitive to call, oh, that girl had some karma in the previous life, that's why she is suffering like that. We don't know whether it is true or not, but I don't want to say, like, justify like that, because I feel it is very highly insensitive to say that. Whatever has happened, whatever may be the reason, but those people who were the immediate cause are responsible for that. So it is each one of us, our responsibility to make sure as much as possible, but we are not the cause of bad things happening to other people.
Okay,
And
thank you.
also, this is when very extreme example, okay, somebody is like kind of tortured and killed. On the other hand, sometimes we do have simple things that we do have this ego that I am a good person. That's an on the other side. So we are not as good as we think all the times, because the very reason that we have a body and we have certain ego and we act out on this world means that we have certain baggage. And so we are not like completely pure, we are not completely bad. So but we could become completely good. But in general, I understand where the question is coming from. People are like, somebody is being murdered, so it's completely unacceptable. Karma is not cannot be the justification. Oh, that person had karma, and we are going to discuss that in the probably in the next one or two slides again. Parnika, does that kind of make sense, Parnika?
Yes, I basically wanted to know like how people think about it, or like essentially like, yeah, is karma then? So like this is
It
great.
it
Thank
could be
you.
karma, but that's not the only reason in this case. The people who were the cause of that is the actual cause.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. My question. Constantine, Prabhu? You have to unmute.
No. When that was said, I was thinking how uh, what I tell myself is a lot of times dying is difficult for the living,
Mm.
because the person that died, like you said, they were good. They did whatever they did. So and I was thinking, how much thought am I going to give that when I'm dead? None. But it's the suffering that happens to everyone. How do you now forgive something that somebody did? It's like I'm left with the struggles to work out. Their struggle is done. So that's all.
So this idea of, thank you for the comment, Prabhu. So if I reflect on what you just shared, the the law of karma is usually for our own understanding of life. Like, say for example, I see some I'm struggling with something, some of my desires are not fulfilled, or somebody behaved in a kind of a not so kind way with me. So I can think, for me to it is this philosophy is for my personal reconciliation with reality. Okay, maybe I had some bad karma, that's why I'm going through this. But this is not for me to tell to others when they're going through bad. Oh, you were just like bad in your life, you had some really bad karma, man, like I don't know what kind of a stupid thing you did in your past life that you're going. No, that's not supposed to be like that. Rather, we try to actually make their life better in whatever way we can. So there, so karma is for personal application. When it comes to others, we understand through the law of karma, our actions can make difference in the world. So we act in ways that could actually make difference in others' lives. Not to actually kind of guilt trap them or like kind of condemn them. Like, because I remember there was a brahmachari who was handicapped and who was giving a lecture, and audience asked him, and he was speaking about karma, and the audience, one of the audience asked him, what kind of karma you think you probably had done in the past life that you are having a handicap situation now. And it's very insensitive to do that. Actually, we are not bothered about but how that person is using their ability now in the given circumstances is more important. The idea of karma is not for us to actually find faults with others or to blame others for what they are going through. We should never blame the victim saying, oh, that was your karma. We don't know what no, horrible things you did in your previous life to suffer this. No, that's not how we apply law of karma. Law of karma, especially this angle that bad leads to bad, is for our own reconciliation with reality, not to actually point at others. When it comes to others, we see how can I make a difference in this world by being helping others. I hope that kind of makes sense. And the character analysis, like Krishna is saying, like, yes, you need to act according to your nature, but in a detached way. But the question is, how can I act detached? So that's why Krishna is saying, you need to know that you are not the only controller. You are one of the three controllers. There is the soul, there is the three modes of material nature, and the Supreme Lord. And the relationship between these three is, as we discussed in the previous slide, this is the relationship between these three that the soul desires, the super soul sanctions, and the material nature facilitates. And it's all done uh, appropriately based on our karma, based on our spiritual aspirations, and are those desires that we have, or is it feasible for it to be facilitated? So act according to our nature, but in a detached way. For that, we need to understand the role of the Supreme Lord in all of this and the power of choice that we have. It's not that we don't have things under our control. We have so much under our control that can really change the quality of our life. So the lessons that we can see from this section is that how we need to do our duty, especially with a proper understanding of what it means to actually do our duty. Like in life, like we may actually, the house we live in may be shaped by our desires and the karma and spiritual aspirations. However, we have the freedom to desire now, and acknowledging that destiny and karma and the influence of the outcomes. And with that idea, we can actually understand I have the freedom to desire, but not all my desires will be fulfilled. Not all my desires will be full, like kind of executed the way I want them. Some of them may be, some of them may not. But it does not mean I don't do my duty. I continue with my duty. And also, many times in the world, we all want to be the best. But what Krishna is saying is like, try your best. First, understand what is the right thing for your own life. Understand what choices are good. What is a good thing to desire. And try your best. And instead of trying to be the best, try your best and make the wise choices, informed choices. And Krishna knows what is best for us. So let him take care of his role. Let us do our role perfectly and have the faith that Krishna will always is perfect and he will do his role perfectly. So what is within our control is to make wise choices, informed choices, and manage our desires, purify our desires, and then be happy and have faith in Krishna that whatever is happening is for our best. And in life, try to do our best instead of trying to be the best, because I see that a lot of tension in my own life comes in trying to be the best. If I only try to just do my best and be happy that I'm having an opportunity to serve, my life will be much more of better quality. And also be conscious of our desires. What kind of desires are we developing? So these are the kind of lessons in this section we can learn. And for our own reflection, we can ask these questions like, can I observe my desires and analyze how many of these desires are conscious desires? How many of them are like dictated by my mind or by my peers, by the trend that is going on around me, by the propaganda or the advertisements that I see? How much of is like forced or influenced by others? How much of the things are very conscious? I realize this is a good desire to develop and is informed by scriptures like Geeta and Bhagavatam and the association and the Bhakti philosophy. And then I endeavor to cultivate those desires, which actually improve the quality of my life. Why is it so important? Because desire is the seed, and choice is the action, and life is the harvest of all that seeds that we have actually uh, planted in our hearts. So that is why it is very important to make sure our desires and choices are accordingly aligned with Krishna's instructions. Because what we consciously desire is what we actively choose. Sometimes the problem is we unconsciously desire, and then we end up passively choosing because our mind has been meditating on those things. We just kind of fall for those choices, and then that's who we become. So this is the whole philosophy of addiction. People unknowingly desire things out of curiosity, and they end up choosing things out of curiosity, and like kind of usually curiosity, or like kind of not having proper information or guidance, and then they become addicts, and then they struggle to get out of that cycle. So that is why our desires need to be consciously cultivated, and our choices need to be informed and active, not passive, influenced by others and what we see in the world, or what our friends think, right? But which is actively, we choose what is good for us, and that's what we become in life. So we have all this control in our hands. So that's kind of summarizes the previous section, that there are three doers, but we have a lot of control in our hands. And Super Soul has some amount of control in his hand, and the material nature facilitates what is sanctioned by the Super Soul. But that does not mean the Super Soul is micromanaging our lives. We are free to choose a lot of our life's choices. And the next section is verses 17 to 26.